Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in today's video we are going to talk about big data. So let's see the agenda of this video. First of all, we are going to cover the basic history of big data. Then we would also be covering monolithic and distributed system, and followed by GFS and MapReduce by Google, and introduction of Hadoop as well. So moving on to the basic history of big data. So obviously computers were invented, and with the advancement there was a requirement of various sort of softwares, right? And therefore software engineers who coded those softwares. So once these softwares were built, many of these softwares needed some sort of server. Okay, now what exactly is a server? So it's not just a physical computer, it's actually a role that any computer can take. So basically, even your computer, if it just has 1 GB RAM or i3 processor of maybe 6 7 generation, even that laptop or computer can become a server. Obviously, it would not be catering to a very large site or software, but it can still cater to very small needs as a simple server. Okay. Now, things were basically going on this way, and advancements were taking place such that bigger servers were basically built to cater more and more people as the advancements were taking place. But what next? So this whole thing was completely disrupted when internet arrived. So aco- um, so because of internet, there was complete disruption as there were a lot of users to those softwares, and a simple server on a laptop couldn't serve the purpose. So what was the possible solution for that? One solution was obviously that we take the existing CPU or server and upgrade it with better specifications. So let's say our previously server had 2 GBs of RAM, so we can upgrade it to, let's say, 32 GBs of RAM. And similarly, if we previously had memory of 200 GB, then we can upgrade it to 1 TB and so on, right? That was like initially how things were going on. And this is basically centralized system or monolithic system where you have a single server or a single computer which has the source code and which stores the whole data of the software as well, and all the processing is done on a single system. That is called centralized or monolithic system. Okay, so that was not enough, and it was completely not scalable. So we now come on to distributed system. Okay, so what was the difference in distributed system? So in distributed system, we basically had many computers interconnected through a network. Okay, so let's say that I have a lot of processing to do. I want computer So let's say I want to have a lot of processing to be done through my PC, but I don't have the relevant specs. So I am just taking a very basic and small example. So what can be done is that one part of processing for, let's say, video editing can be done on one computer system in the network, and another computer can be used for some other purpose, let's say for watching movies or anything else. Okay, so and so on. So basically, let's say there are multiple computers interconnected in a system through a network. So that was basically a distributed system, and every big data system that we have nowadays is basically based on distributed system. And we would be discussing in more detail as we proceed further. So let's see a basic comparison between the two systems. A centralized system consists of a single machine. As I told you that there is a single server and multiple users can basically access data from that particular server or anything like that. And in distributed system, we have many computers within a system, and the processing can be divided among all those computers. So that is basically the main difference here. And in the centralized or monolithic system, all the calculations are done within that particular server. Whereas, as earlier also I told, in distributed system, it gets divided among the different systems. Obviously, performance through in distributed system is better as things get divided, and it's not the same case with the centralized, as everything is done within a single server or within a single system. Also, there is no machine backup as such in monolithic or centralized system. You have single server, single system, and within that system, everything takes place. You do not really have a backup computer. So, in case that server fails due to any reason, we do not have any backup computer. But in case of distributed system, as I said, there can be like 10 computers within a particular network interconnected to each other. And even if one of them fails, there are 9 others to back it up, right? Depending upon how much processing is obviously required. So like that's the advantage of distributed system over monolithic or centralized system. Now moving ahead to again the history of big data. So there was a company called Google, which we all know, and this company basically recognized the issue or the reason or basically the problems that were being caused due to the disruption caused by internet, and they basically identified 4 different problems that uh, basically formed the basis of Hadoop also. So the first one was data collection. So since they were a search engine, they were one of the major problem was data collection to discover and crawl different web pages. The second point was data storage from all over the world. So obviously they cater to every part of the world, right? And collecting all the data and storing that data. That was one of the main problems again identified by Google. So the third point is data processing and transformation. And in this, basically, we cover the computation power required to process all the massive data that we have stored already. So obviously, we have stored the data, but we need to compute that data, right? We need to process that data to basically lead that data to something, right? So that everything comes under this particular point, and this was again another big issue. The fourth point was to access that data and retrieve that data in an efficient manner. So, like these were the 4 main problems identified by Google, and obviously they did provide some sort of solution for that. So, coming to that, Google basically wrote 2 papers. One of them was published in 2003. So these were papers, these were not actual implementations, but only a theoretical concept, right? So the first one was released in 2003, and it basically described how you could store large data sets. So here we are not talking about GBs of data. Here we are not even talking about terabytes of data. We are talking about data more than terabytes. So I am kind of forgetting the term for that, but yeah. So let's say we have 10 terabytes of data. Let's say we have a single file which is of 10 terabyte, right? So we do not really find a lot of computers that can store that level of data within a single system. Like even my gaming laptop that I have has a memory of 512 GB SSD. So most of the computers that we have do not really cater to such memory, and they cannot really store such data sets. So to be brief about it, GFS, basically the Google file system paper, had in the mind that they said that you can store a particular single file in 10 different systems. So coming back to the distributed system which we discussed earlier, there can be 10 different computers which are called nodes in a particular network, right? And what we can do is we can store a single file, divide that single file into 10 parts, let's say. So if we have each computer of 1 terabyte RAM or memory, so we can basically use all those 10 computers to store that single file. Okay, so how that data is or that file is divided, that is another thing. But this is the theoretical concept that they had raised or published. Okay, and this was called GFS or Google File System. Another paper was published by them in 2004. Okay, and what was that about? So that was about processing that data. So we already know how we can store the data, but now it was about processing that data. And this paper was called MapReduce. Okay, so these were the two papers which were very essential in the setup of big data ahead, and these were both published by Google. And again, it was published as a theoretical concept. It was not really implemented by Google. So there was obviously implementation done gradually, and for that comes Yahoo in the picture. Okay, so Yahoo basically took those papers, used those papers or theoretical concepts to actually implement them. And they implemented GFS and renamed it as HDFS, which is Hadoop Distributed File System. Okay, and they also implemented MapReduce and they didn't rename it at all. So Yahoo did the whole implementation part of what Google had proposed in 2003 and 2004 papers. So these two things actually led to the main development or the core part of Hadoop 1.0. Okay, so if you are ever asked what were the two main components of Hadoop system, at least Hadoop 1.0 system, so uh, HDFS and MapReduce, these were the main two parts or the core two parts of Hadoop system. So thanks guys. We are going to end this particular video here only. So if you enjoyed the content or if you want to know more about big data, then please stay tuned, subscribe the channel, like and comment whatever you want to know about big data. We will be bringing a lot of new videos regarding this, and it's kind of a course that I am going to bring up along with Newton School. So yeah, thank you.